Picture this. You record yourself sing and you think you sound awesome. And then you hear it back.
Sometimes it tastes like gold, but it's rotten. Sometimes a cage can look like a key. Sometimes it takes your whole life free falling to be free.
What happened? Why is it all so small, dry, and amateur sounding? You run to the internet trying to find answers and ta-da! You figure out what you need is a vocal chain. Except all of the plugins everyone is using add up to like thousands of dollars. Ain't nobody's got that kind of money in this economy. Luckily, there are some amazing free plugins you can use to make a vocal chain. They sound just as good as the expensive ones, and anyone and any DAW can use them. All you need is a pro to put it together for you. Hi, I'm Alina. I've been recording singers for over 20 years now. I've worked with everyone from new artists to Grammy winners. I've taken the vocal chain I usually use and replaced every expensive plugin in it with a free one. And I was honestly shocked by how close it sounds. Let me show you. All right, here it is, our beautiful chain. Everything in it is currently disabled, but not for long. Let's go ahead and start putting these plugins on and see what they do. First up, I have Ozone Equalizer. I believe there's a 12 version out already, so you can grab that, but this should still work. It is a free plugin by Isotope, and it's just a really good, simple graphical EQ. Now, what I'm doing here, first and foremost, is I am high passing. I'm removing some of the low bass frequencies because, to be honest, in most vocals, you don't really need them. Unless you have like a deep bass guy singing where you really want to showcase those frequencies, you're probably gonna want to nix them. And then I'm actually boosting in the mids. The reason I'm doing this is sort of a preemptive action for something that's going to happen later in the chain, which are my brightener EQs over here. You guys will see them in a bit here. Basically, this mid boost is helping to make sure that my vocal is not too thin sounding by the time I do the high frequency boosts. It keeps it from sounding tinny. And this is our vocal without this EQ.
Hot breathing, hot spinning, down.
And with it.
Down, down.
There's not much of a difference yet, but don't worry, that's about to change. Next up, we have a compressor called TDR Molotok. Shout out to my fellow Slavic people. This means hammer in Russian. I would say this is like an analog compression emulation. It's pretty good for a free plugin especially. And what I'm playing with a lot here is just the threshold and makeup like most compressors of this kind.
Sometimes it tastes like gold, but it's rotten.
And for anyone who might be newer at this, what most producers use compressors for, especially on vocals, is to even out their levels. If you have a really quiet bit like this right here, a compressor is supposed to bring up that volume, make it louder, make it easier to hear. When you have a louder bit like this, it's supposed to tame down those peaks, make sure that it doesn't just pop up in volume and potentially even clip. And yeah, if we check out this compressor, especially on this louder part, this is what it's doing.
Sometimes it tastes like gold, but it's rotten. Sometimes a cage can look like a key.
This meter right here, the needle jumping around, is showing how much it's turning it down. It's not a lot because it is a pretty quiet vocal, but at the most I saw it going to the 6 dB mark. My attack is kind of in the middle. If you wanted to act faster, to compress quicker, you can obviously make it like a quicker attack. I just keep sort of in the middle. And my ratio is 4:1. This is a very like safe, common ratio for vocals. And you can see that the makeup gain here really helps with just the volume of this really quiet vocal. Without it, it sounds like this.
Lines weaken, but I see them.
And this is with it on.
Now. Open my...
Yeah, a little bit of gain makes it easier to hear. Next up, we have another compressor. Now, when you stack two compressors back to back, this is called serial compression. We compress it a bit with Molotok, and then we're feeding it into this compressor called Lala Leveling Amplifier. I actually don't know if it's LA or Lala. I like Lala more. I personally refer to this as a topper compressor. It's not doing a whole lot. It's just kind of catching things that the main one might not have caught.
I might be losing all I had, but I'm finding what I need.
You can see it right there. That needle is moving just a little bit. It is, like I said, topping off what this compressor is doing. Next up, we have de-essing. This is, of course, a free plugin called TDesser. And what this does is it helps with sibilance. So sounds like s, sh. Those can be really harsh in vocals, especially when you start boosting the high end of the EQ, like biting at your ears harsh. And trust me, you don't want that in your songs. So if we listen to this line right here, it has a lot of S's in it. Let's listen without TDesser.
Sometimes it tastes like gold, but it's rotten.
And let's listen with it on.
Sometimes it tastes like gold, but it's rotten.
Now you might say, Alina, can't you hear it? It's removing a little bit too much S. Yes. And that's the point. What we're doing is we're really taming down the S right before we add our brighteners, the EQs that are going to boost the high frequencies of our voice. I've experimented with having de-essing before the brighteners and after, and trust me, it sounds a lot better before. So don't be scared if you don't have brighteners on your chain yet, and it sounds a little bit like the S's are not there. This is how it's supposed to sound at this stage. I've been yapping about these brighteners for a while now, so let's actually look at them. This first one is Rare by Analog Obsession. For anyone who likes analog gear, this is an emulation of a Pultec EQ, which is very famous and common, especially pop top 40 vocals like this. So what am I doing here? I am boosting one of the frequencies that I commonly refer to as the magic vocal frequencies. So this is 8K or 8,000 hertz. Like if we isolate this frequency, it's gonna sound pretty much like sibilance in air, like this. Sorry. It is very harsh. But of course, we're not going to boost it like a crazy amount like this. And obviously, we're not going to remove the other frequencies. We're just going to give it a nice little boost here. Between 6 and 8 is usually kind of a common ground I'm in. If I have a very warm vocalist that wants to sound more poppy, I might go all the way to 10. And if I have more of a piercing vocalist, it might be more like here. But this is what our vocal sounded like without it.
Sometimes it takes your whole life free falling.
And this is what it sounds like with it.
To be free, to be free. Sometimes you learn to swim when you're sinking.
Actually boosted it a little bit. I feel like it needed even more. But yeah, you can hear it. It immediately is giving it that pop cut. And by the way, if you want a cheat sheet of the exact settings I'm using here, you can download my free vocal chain guide in the description. It's got everything you need to rebuild this chain on your end, including all the links to download the free plugins. It's free. Go grab that shit. The next brightener I'm using is a plugin called Brit Channel, kind of like a 1073 clone situation. And what I'm boosting here specifically is 3,000 hertz, or technically 3.2. It's a very small boost, like around 2 dBs. I call this frequency the cut of the vocal. And it sounds like this with it on.
Sometimes it hurts, but I'm still beginning.
And finally, my last brightener. This is Rare from Analog Obsession. Again, I'm totally fine to use the same plugin in a chain twice. And what I'm doing here is I'm boosting 10,000 hertz. And this is a great frequency to boost for, again, that kind of polished, punchy, high-endy pop vocal.
Dreams broken, but I've woken up.
And just for funsies, let's listen, compare where we were without a chain and with this chain on.
Open my eyes, let my tears crystallize. I'm switching focus. It's tough letting go of the world that I know, but what I know is...
Dude, it sounds so similar to my premium chain, which is probably a few $1,000s if you add it up. Ugh. Honestly, when I was starting to produce 20 years ago, there were no free plugins this good. But now anyone who wants to make good music can, without dropping a bag, which is why I love making videos like this. So don't gatekeep it from aspiring musicians. Hit that like and hit that subscribe button. Seriously, it helps me and it will help more talented artists find this video. And okay, I'm gonna go a little bit faster here now, but we are not done with this vocal. What we need now on it are some effects, right? No one likes a dry, boring lead vocal. We gotta have a little bit of sauce. So let's bust this out to some effects. The way Ableton works is you basically turn these knobs and it goes to the sends that you have set up. So my A is gonna be my reverb. Let's do a little bit like this. B is gonna be my delay, and C is gonna be my doubler. And I just need a little bit of that. On the verb bus, we are starting with EQ. Same as the lead chain, we're just removing the low end. Then we are de-essing. It is so important to de-ess your reverbs. Otherwise, you're gonna end up with really splashy sibilance kind of baked into the reverb, sizzling all over the place. And most of the time, that's not the vibe. Next, we have our actual reverb. This is Tal Reverb 4. I know it's not like the prettiest reverb, sorry to the developers. If you're watching, you know it's not the prettiest reverb, and I usually like to use plate as like my default preset for my vocals. I very often will keep it there, but you know, if I want to change it to like a hall verb, non-lin, if I'm trying to be like 80s and kind of funky, you can do that. There's a lot of presets right here. After that, I'm using a little bit of pitch shifting. Now, this is creating an illusion of my reverb being in a different place sonically than my lead vocal. It's probably the best way I can describe it. It's a very subtle pitch shift, but it kind of gets it out of the way of the lead, separates them a little bit. And here I have a very simple little plugin for creating an illusion of width. If you listen to this reverb by itself, it sounds like this. Next up, we have delay. I'm starting with the same EQ settings. I am also de-essing. Now, I do have a little bit of reverb on here before delay kicks in, and this is a technique I call reverb smudging. It's from my music producer crash course. I go like way into it, but basically this softens the impact of the delay. Kind of makes it a little washier, which I personally really like. And this is our actual delay. It's called delay. Honestly, I don't understand why this is free. Like, I'd pay money for it. It's good. And it's a quarter note delay with some pretty basic settings. You know, you can make it sound more tape-like. You can add a little distortion, high cut, low cut, kind of all the normal stuff. I, just keep it really simple here. After that, I'm auto panning the delay. This is a really nice trick to have its own space in the mix. Imaging, making it seem a little bit wider. Again, getting it out of the way of the lead. With these effects, I'm always wanting them to not compete with the lead, just enhance it. Pitch shifter, same idea as the verb, but we're going flatter versus sharper. This is what the delay sounds like just by itself. Pretty swimmy. And then we have the doubler bus. So this is a great free doubler by Isotope, and I'm transient shaping it a little bit afterwards. This is like a classic pop trick to put a little bit of doubler on your lead vocal to give it a little bit of extra thickness. If you guys remember here, I'm not sending my vocal too much to it, so it's not getting too much input. So it's gonna be pretty quiet. I know it doesn't sound like much by itself. It's more of a thickener for the lead. And okay, I think it's time to put it all together and hear how this chain is sounding on my vocals. Just to remind you, this was the before.
Sometimes it takes your whole life free falling to be free, to be free.
And this is with all the things.
Sometimes you learn to swim when you're sinking. Fumble your words to find clarity. Sometimes it hurts, but I'm still beginning to be free, to be free.
This sounds great. Much better than when we started, but I definitely would not say this is a finished vocal production. To really fill this out, we need doubles, background vocals, effects throws, all kinds of layers. And actually, I have built a full free plugin vocal template that includes all of these layers. It's gonna be part of my upcoming vocal production course, which will have over 10 hours of info on how to record, edit, layer up, and mix vocals so that they can go from what we just heard to
I know that I can be free.
The link for the early access to my vocal production course is in the description. In the meantime, check out one of my other videos here. I will see you next time. Bye!